Welcome to this episode of the PA System. On this episode, I'm talking with Suzi Barrett about the power of tiny habits. So welcome to the show, Suzi.
Thanks for having me.
So great to have you. So just to kind of let everybody know a little bit about you, if you could sum up your childhood in one word, what would it be?
Fun.
Fun.
I had
Love
such a
that.
good childhood. I had great parents and just wonderful siblings. We just were constantly looking for new and crazy ways to have fun.
Love that. Love that. And so then you decided, okay, well, I've had this great childhood and I want to do some more fun things in my life. So, how did you end up becoming a personal trainer?
The next period of my life, after my young childhood, I would say the next 10 years, the word I would choose would be health. So I took an anatomy and physiology class when I was 12 years old, and I was never the same after that. Realizing how
Mm,
intricate the body is and how amazing and incredible it is, I knew I wanted to know more, and I just became sort of a voracious student of the body, and I just wanted to know more. And then once I learned how amazing it is, and I really became passionate and obsessed with helping other people to understand and appreciate and love their bodies. There's such a disconnect in the world right now with, especially with women, how we struggle with our bodies. And I think that is such a tragedy. And so I try really hard to help people to reconnect with how incredible they are and the amazing tool they have, and to appreciate it and love it instead of wanting to change it all the time, but shifting our mindset from negativity and being negatively connected to your body to seeing how amazing it is and wanting the best for it. And that is where your motivation comes from.
I love that. And so, what was that transition? I mean, you had this great childhood, and then you decided you wanted to get into health and wellness. How did that happen?
I've always been an athlete since I was 5 years old. And so I just knew that sports and physical fitness are a huge part of my life. And that's one of the attributes of my fun. It's been a part of every year of my life. And in college, like I said, I got a degree in health education because I wanted to help people to understand their bodies. And I knew I didn't want to be in a high school teacher setting. I wanted to be in the community. I wanted to be where the people are that in all ages and in daily regular life, that's where people need the help. That's where people need the health and where we have little access to it. So I got my emphasis in community wellness, and that's sort of where it started. I worked for a wellness center for a while where we did um, presentations about certain healthy habits and diseases and things you can do to prevent things like diabetes and heart disease and things like that. And once I moved from there, I started working. I got a personal trainer certification, and I really got into injury rehabilitation. I
Mm,
absolutely love how little tiny changes, this is where the tiny changes thing really came into play, was these little itty bitty shifts that you can make with the way that you move that completely change the way you feel, not just when you're doing it, but for months and years afterwards. It's absolutely amazing. And so that was sort of the next specialization that I went into, was injury rehab and helping people to go from out of commission because of an injury to back into normal daily life, and then being able to push themselves to the next level without pain or without stress.
Oh, I love that. Well, I think it's really kind of fun to hear your backstory, right? So we have a little bit of understanding as to how you got to where you are today and sort of the meaning behind that for you. And so, since not everyone in the world has already heard of you, it's fun for me to hear, of course, but it's great for them to have that frame of reference too. And so, you did though at some point decide to sort of transition a little bit and take what you had already learned and put that into some coaching. And so, talk to us about that and what that has looked like for you.
Yeah. So I was really, really focused on, personal training, one-to-one and small group physical fitness. And then I had my fourth baby, and something just changed. For a year
Mm,
after I had this sweet baby, I just didn't feel like myself. I felt like something had completely shifted. I had lost some piece of something, and my happiness sort of went out the window. The things that used to make me happy just no longer did, and I just didn't feel like myself anymore. And so for a solid year I dealt with this, and I just hoped it would go away. And I didn't know what it was, and I didn't think to get help. And one day I was talking to my cousin about this, and she's like, you have the same thing I do, and it's postpartum depression. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm not sad, and I don't feel disconnected from my baby. We got a great relationship. And she's like,
Right.
no, you have a chemical imbalance that you need to deal with. Go and get some help. So I finally did. And after a year and a half, it was a solid 18 months that I had struggled with this. I finally went to a doctor, and they said, here's the deal. You need to work on your mental health. They're like, we're going to give you some medications, but we only want you on this medication for a couple of months. And then we need you to be able to really make your mental health a priority. And I was like, I have no idea how to do that. So they sent me away, and they said, good luck. And on my way home from that doctor's appointment, I was I have no idea where to start. Like, I don't know. I'm a physical trainer. I can work your body all day long, but to work my mind, I was at a loss. And so on my way home from that doctor's appointment, I consider to be divine intervention or inspiration. I was inspired to try my own personal training program that I had been doing with my clients, but instead of with physical health habits that I've been doing with these people for years and years, I was going to do it with mental health habits. And so it's a 60-day program, basically, and you sit down at the beginning and you set your goals that you're going to achieve every single day as often as you can for a solid 2 months. And so I sat down and I started with my mental health. And instead of setting physical health habits, which I'd always done, I set some mental health habits, things like meditation, affirmations, and things like that. And listening to music was one of my most valuable mental health habits. And after this shift, and just in a solid 2-month period, I worked on these 3 things as much as I could. I wasn't perfect. Habits don't require that you be perfect. They just require a little bit of consistency. And so over 2 months, I did these 3 things as many times as I could every day. And everything changed. It was unbelievable. Like I said, I've been suffering with this and dealing with this off-kilter life for 18 months. And in 2 months, I got myself back. I say that Life Conscious, which is my book and the philosophy behind my programming now, came to life because it brought me back to life. I totally felt like that 2-month period just completely changed the whole world. And so that's when I went from just coaching physical health habits to wanting to apply it to other areas of life, because it goes so far beyond just physical health. And in that moment, I was like, all right, if this works for physical health and mental health, what else does it work for? And so over the next course of a year, I did this program 6 times and did it with my physical health, my mental health, my parenting, my finances, my family relationships, and my spirituality. And every single time I was able to form habits that made it so that I didn't have to think so hard, so that I didn't have to focus so much on the daily details, but they were just automated. They were just built into who I am and how I live, and I could think again. I could focus again on the things that mattered to me and know that in the background, I'm making progress in so many different areas. So that's where I shifted into habits coaching, because it's so much bigger than just health. It starts with health. I always think people should start there. Yeah. But then once you've mastered the process, you can absolutely rinse and repeat this thing through any part of your life.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. So tell us, some of the examples that you have of people that have gone through your program. Maybe they've come out of something, really deep, like they've been in a deep depression, or, they have severe anxiety. How are some of the ways that this has supported them?
Sure. Yeah, I'll tell you about Mary. Mary was, she came to me and she just said, hey, I'm starting this business and I want to get into here with business habits. And within the first 2 weeks, she's like, actually, I don't need business habits. I need mental wellness habits. And so within that first 2 weeks, she had already uncovered what the priority needed to be in her life. So we shifted her habits, we changed her focus, and she chose 3 things. She was going to work on, what did she call it? Her body, mind, and soul. She picked 3 habits that one was for her physical health, one was for her mental health, and one was for her spirituality. And she would put these all into 1 hour. It was 20 minutes of each. And over that 2-month period, she went from overwhelmed, wanting to start a business, needing to work on herself, wanting to be a better mom, wanting to, make more income for her family, to having it figured out. Like, she had a plan. She had her first paying clients. She had started the business, and she had been working on herself so much that her confidence was off the charts. Like, she knew she could do it. It was unbelievable to take this woman from, I don't know what I'm supposed to be focusing on, but I know I want to do this thing and this thing and this thing, to here's the plan. Here's what I do every day. And it's absolutely working for me. It was unbelievable. And I'm telling you, it was just 2 months of this. And I can tell you about, several others. Who should we go with next? Let's go with Stacy. Stacy came to me and she was like, she's just stressed out about all the things that were pulling her in different directions. She felt like her energy was going to her family, to her work, to all these different places. And she just said, hey, I am unhappy and I feel stretched so thin that I don't know where to turn for happiness. And I said, all right, I want you to pick 3 things. Pick 3 things that you can do every day for yourself. What are you going to do for you? What are you going to do to focus on you as a priority again?
Right.
So she chose her 3 things, and over 2 months, she worked on those 3 things. And again, not perfect. We don't need you to be perfect.
Sure.
Habits are not about absolute perfection. They're about progress. For the
Right.
first week, she had a hard time even keeping track of what she was succeeding at. She's like, I don't know. I maybe did 1 or 2 things right. And I was like, okay, this week I want you to really pay attention. I want you to be really, really conscious of what you're doing and write it down. And then next week, we're going to check in and we'll see how you do. And she's like, this week, I wrote down all the things I did. And as I was going along, I could see that I actually was doing things that made a difference.
Yeah.
And even just realizing, like the first week and the second week, she's like, the actions weren't that much different, but just the fact that I paid attention and that I noticed, that's what made the difference. And then she started to get that motivation and that confidence in herself. And over the next few months, she just totally turned things around and it was unbelievable. She was happy again and she was motivated and she could focus and see what was possible. And then
so let's dig into that a little bit more. So what are a few of those habits that people can start to implement, or how can they start to approach their habits and kind of kickstart this process in their life?
Sure. So I use what's called the 1, 2, 3 process. It's super simple. Let's just make it as simple as possible because we're all overwhelmed and we're all busy. Let's just break it down and keep it easy.
Right.
So step number 1, you're going to pick your one most important thing. If you can't decide what's the most important thing, ask yourself this question. What would be the thing that if I were to work on it right now, if I were to give this thing my attention and my time, would make the biggest difference? What one thing would bring me the most happiness right now? Or if you can't answer that question, ask this question. What is the one thing that if I continue to ignore it, will keep me from happiness and success in my life? Oftentimes, one of those 2 questions will obviously bring up something. And then you realize, like, okay, that's my focus. Sometimes this is your physical health. Sometimes this is your mental health. Sometimes this is your finances. Maybe it's a family relationship. Whatever it is, you can feel that pulling you in one direction or another. So that's the first step. Figure out what I call this your 1 pillar focus. This is a big, strong piece that holds up who you are. Find that thing, focus in on it. What do you need? Then step number 2 is to harness your 2 superpowers over 2 months of consistency. So you have 2 superpowers, which is amazing. You already are fully equipped with everything you need to succeed in this process and in anything in your life. And the first one takes about a month to get it involved and to get it working. This is your conscious mind. This is the front of your mind, your to-do list, the opinions you form and the things that you think about. That's in your conscious. Your subconscious, though, is the habit-forming part of your brain. And that takes toward the end of a 2-month period before that part of your mind starts to kick in. And you'll notice there, the conscious mind takes about a month, and then the subconscious is at the end of the 2nd month. There's a gap in the middle there. And this gap is called the slump, or James Clear in Atomic Habits, he calls it the plateau of latent potential, whatever you want to call it. There's a space in this process that most of us don't expect and we don't know how to deal with. And so that's what derails our progress. This 2 to 3 week gap after your first month is why 99% of New Year's resolutions don't ever see the month of February.
Yeah.
We can work on things for 2 or 3 weeks. We can force ourselves to get through it and keep going. But unless we get our subconscious mind involved, none of those changes are going to be long-term. None of those things are going to matter longer than what you're consciously working on. So that's this important factor of the step 2. You got to get to the end of your 2nd month because it's so incredibly amazing when your subconscious mind steps forward and you feel that shift. You feel that change of, okay, I don't have to think about this so much anymore, but it's still happening in my life. It's now who I am and not just what I do.
Yeah.
So
And I
then
think that's
step three,
I don't want to gloss over that point. I think it's important because, your brain doesn't know the difference. Even if you were thinking about doing these things, every day, your brain wouldn't know the difference. So once you've started practicing them consistently, it's actually like creating those pathways in your brain to sort of reinforce that same behavior. So that's why you need that time in between there. So I think that's a really important point. Okay, go
yeah,
on.
no, you're spot on with that for sure. Even if you're not, that's what I tell my clients is you don't have to be perfect because as long as you're just thinking about the three things, as long as
Yeah.
you're just thinking about what you're doing, that's
Yeah.
enough. As long as it's staying in the front of your mind for your 2 months, that's all you need to succeed. You're absolutely right with that. So then people are like, all right, so how do I harness these two superpowers together? What am I doing for 2 months?
Yeah.
You're going to pick three things, three little tiny tasks that you can do every day that make your one pillar a reality. So many of us have this vision board or this dream of ours, and it feels super far away.
Yeah.
What can you do to make that exist today?
Right.
And so you're going to pick three things, three simple little things. Like I said, with my mental health, I wanted to be healthy, I wanted to be happy, and I wanted to be reconnected with myself. So to make those three things happen, I chose one thing I knew would speak to me, and that was listening to music. I made a habit out of listening to music every single day. The second thing was affirmations. I needed to reconnect with myself. And so I'd sit in the mirror and I'd look at myself and I'd say these statements to myself that took a while to believe, but now I absolutely know them to be true. And then the third one, that one sort of shifted. I started out with a multivitamin and I moved into meditation. And so just focusing in on what you need. That's a big part of the process is personalizing these habits to you. I can tell you what I do all day long, but it's not going to mean anything if it's not yours.
Yeah.
So you're going to pick your 3 daily things. That's the 1, 2, 3 process. That's the simplest way to start and the most efficient way to change your life because it only takes 2 months and it stays with you for far beyond what you're consciously focusing on. 1, 2, 3. 1 focus, 2 months of consistency with your 2 superpowers, 3 simple daily habits. There you have it.
That's so amazing. And I know that you've written a book recently. So tell us a little bit about the book as well.
Sure. Life Conscious. Yeah, that's my book. And you can get it on Amazon or you can get it on my website, which is livelifeconscious.com. And this is the science and the research behind all the stuff that I'm talking about. And then the first half of the book is sort of the story on how habits are formed and all of these things that I'm talking about. And the second half of the book is how you can apply the system to 5 different areas of your life. Your physical health, your self-love, your mental health, your faith, family, and finances. And so you've got those 5 areas of your life that are those are some of the most important areas of everybody's life that all of us need to work on. And so this just gives you a little bit of an idea on how important these are and how you can take some habits and put them into your life. And then at the back of the book, I have my resources in there for the actual blueprint itself that helps you to track your daily habits, that helps you to get all the way through both months so that you can keep those things front of your mind and make sure that you are consistent long enough that you can form those habits.
Love it. And so for those of you who are listening and may not be watching with us right now, again, that website is livelifeconscious.com. So you can go there to find the book and to get more information on Suzi and what she's up to these days. You can also find her on social media. And her handle on social media is at Suzi B, just the letter B, and then life. And Suzi is Suzi, and then again, that's Suzi B Life. So you also have, I want to make sure I share this out, you've got a group that people can join for free on Facebook as well.
Yeah, this group is attached to our podcast. We have a podcast called the Habits and Humor Podcast. And so the group is called Habits and Humor on Facebook. And it's a community where we use embarrassing and funny stories to teach life lessons and simple habits. And so me and my guests, we will share something comical or embarrassing or disastrous that has happened in our lives and that we learned something from. And then we help you to learn that lesson as well. And then every single episode, we give you 3 simple things that you can walk away with to start today. That's a huge piece of the puzzle is the action step. So the show title is Habits and Humor. And we say, come to laugh, stay to learn, and choose to live.
So fun. Love that. Well, I just want to thank you for being with me today and for sharing your knowledge and insight with our listeners. And to all of you out there listening, thank you again for being with us. And if you got something from this, share it out with someone. You never know what friend or family member might need to hear this message as well. So thank you again, and lots of love going out to all of you. Good night, everyone.
Thanks. See ya.